Hey everybody, Eve here. Today I'm going to be talking about the HCG diet protocol. And because I'm a vegetarian, I felt I had some specific and rather unique challenges as a result of that. And it made it very difficult for me in the beginning to find more information about what vegetarians can eat on the HCG diet protocol. As you know, that most people, it's sort of a paleo type of diet, which consists of two small portions of protein per day, under around 3.5 ounces or 100 grams. And you do need to purchase a scale, by the way. And you can also have some fish, but there's only certain types of meats, certain types of fish, certain types of vegetables, and certain types of fruits only every day that you can have every day. And it all has to be within this 500 calorie window. So moving along here, I'm going to go over Dr. Simians' basic HCG protocol or menu protocol, if you will, because like I said, it is a hard diet. However, it works. And if you do it and you work it and you do it according to Dr. Simians' original protocol, and the book called Pounds and Inches is available free on my website here. You can download that and, of course, order your HCG authentic prescription HCG injections or drops, and you will be on your way to taking the pounds off and keeping them off. I've lost 16 pounds. I would like to lose 6 more. However, I'm going to wait to do round 2 till after I do some visiting and what have you, because you really need to stay focused and be dedicated. But I think a 16-pound loss, I'm happy with that. I'm maintaining at that now. I'm eating plenty of food. I'm not hungry. It's amazing. I have tons of energy. Enough about me. Let's get to the diet. So for breakfast, Dr. Simian's original HCG protocol is tea or coffee without sugar and a tablespoon of milk allowed in 24 hours. For lunch, you can have 100 grams of veal, beef, chicken, fresh white fish, lobster, crab, or shrimp. You got to remove all the visible fat before cooking. It can be boiled or grilled without additional fat. Salmon, eel, tuna, herring, dried or pickled fish are not allowed. You can choose one vegetable from the following: spinach, chard, chicory, beet greens, green salad tomatoes, celery, fennel, onions, red radishes, cucumbers, asparagus, cabbage. So, and also for lunch and for dinner, you can have one breadstick, ricino, or one Melba toast, one apple, orange, or a handful of strawberries, or half of a grapefruit. And dinner, that's the same. So breakfast here, coffee without, unless you have you can sweeten it with stevia. Everything can be sweetened with stevia, even your fruit. But it can only be organic sweet leaf brand stevia. Make sure that the brand you get is organic, and it has to be stevia. All those others that have in like erythritol, maltitol, anything that's got a tol, T-O-L, I don't know. It just sounds too chemically to me. Stick to stevia. It's a plant-based sweetener. So, and so the 500 calorie limit every day must be maintained. So like I said, you'll have 2 protein choices per day. You'll have your one vegetable choice, even though you've got a lot of vegetables to choose from, or a few vegetables to choose from. You'll have to make one choice. You can't mix the vegetables. You can't mix the fruit. Everything, you can have the fruit later in the day. And as for breakfast, some people may want to eat a breakfast. I recommend that you eat the protein source. And if you're going to, because HCG does take away some of your appetite, you may be tempted not to eat some of your meal. Always make sure that you eat the protein part of your meal and not just the fruit and not just the veggies. You're not going to get enough protein. You are going to be exhausted. And that was the only drawback to my experience with the HCG diet, was not having enough information. And being a vegetarian, I wasn't eating the protein, and I wasn't drinking a protein smoothie, which is allowed. You've just got to know which brands to buy. And I'm getting ahead of myself, which is what I always do. But anyway, you've got to eat the protein. If you eat nothing else, eat the proteins every day. They are the most essential, or you're going to feel very, very fatigued and exhausted and just frazzled, seriously. So I'm going to get to what the vegetarians can have, and I'll have this also, a link to this also on my website. So for breakfast, tea or coffee in any quantity, 1 tablespoon of cow's milk is allowed per day. Stevia is the only sweetener that will not slow weight loss. So in lunch and dinner, choose from each of these sections. You can have 1 serving of protein, and here's the list of, there's MRM, Natural Way, Sun Warrior, J Rob, Garden of Life. That's the one I chose because it's readily available at most health food stores. You can have fat-free cottage cheese. Has no fat. You cannot get the 2%. It has to be only the fat-free cottage cheese. And I found that Breakstones was the brand that I bought. So people, you can have a whole egg and 3 egg whites. I didn't do that. I just went ahead and rather than bust eggs and waste yolks, I just ate 2 eggs. But like I said, I was kind of a protocol breaker in some aspects, and for some strange reason, which is lucky for me, didn't seem to affect my ability to stabilize once I got off of my injections. And while I'm during my phase 3 here, I'm not gaining, and it's wonderful. I'm stabilizing, but that may not be the case for you. So you really want to stick to protocol. So they do say that you can use a few other foods, but they discourage the use of the following protein options. Oh, I forgot to mention tofu. So if you like tofu, but it has to have less than 5 grams of fat and less than 5 grams of carbohydrates. And then they discourage the use of the following protein options more than twice a week because they're highly processed. And that's Morningstar Farms grillers, Morningstar Farms sausage patties, Boca All-American flame grilled burger, Boca Original vegan burger, and Boca All-American classic made with non-GMO soy. So you can have protein powder notes, but 1 scoop of protein powder equals 1 very low calorie serving of protein. So other protein powders must be 5 grams of carbs or less per serving and sweetened only with stevia or xylitol. And again, I said stevia is preferable. Now we're going to go to my page that I've devoted for this subject. And so basically, in summary, the HCG hormone diet protocol is hard enough on its own. But I've personally found it's even harder for vegetarians, primarily because you're taking an already extremely restrictive menu and restricting it even further. So vegetarians have only a handful of protein sources to fall back on, and these are fat-free cottage cheese, eggs, under 5 grams of carbs, and protein powders. So now, since I got my HCG injections from the company called New Edge, they do send, as part of their package, their dietary recommendations. And they do allow something that isn't mentioned in the Simians protocol. They allow 3 teaspoons per day of MCT oil for frying your protein or your meat portions if you're a meat eater, which I'm not, but I needed this for my eggs, and I also needed it for my salad dressings. You're allowed to, there's all kinds of HCG vinaigrette, oil-free type salad dressings, which are not palatable to me. Number one, I'm not a big, even though I'm vegetarian, I am not keen on salads. They have to have lots of flavor, and unfortunately, that does require fat for me. So, but like I said, that's prohibited on Dr. Simian's original HCG protocol. But New Edge has found, and I guess that their teams do know what they're doing, because there's teams of nutritionists and excuse me, doctors and what have you that formulate these diets, and the diet has come, I believe, a long way over the past 50 years, 50 years or so since Dr. Simians pioneered this particular protocol. So it's not part of as I said, it's not part of Dr. Simian's original HCG protocol. So many people believe you will have difficulties stabilizing your weight during phase 3 if you use it. Whereas I found it to be a non-issue for my personal metabolic issues. Now, I don't know what my metabolic issues are because I didn't actually, have any specific testing to find. I just knew I had them. And so the 3 weeks of phase 3 does allow good oils in your diet, but some people don't introduce them until phase 4. I've seen both types of information on the internet, which is very confusing. Uh, some people advocate on phase 3, you just need to continue everything you ate on the 500 calorie, very low calorie diet for the next 3 weeks, and then don't introduce any oils, carbs, or sugars until phase 4. And that actually means if you're doing a one round of HCG, which is 21 days, you're going to be actually doing 42 days of that 21 days of 500 calories a day, then an additional 21 days of the same diet, but you're able to eat more of those foods, but it's primarily still the same diet. You're still restricted, and there won't no fats, no carbs, no sugars. That was just insane to me, and I just decided to play a little bit because I'm 62. I'm like, why not? And if anybody's going to be a guinea pig, I'll be a guinea pig, because if I couldn't stabilize during phase 3, using a little bit of oils and introducing a little bit of carbs, very little, but however, no sugars yet, then who would be the guinea pig for other people? But like I said, we all have different metabolic issues, and it's best really, if you want to be successful, and since you invest so much time and money and effort into this protocol to begin with, it is really, really a good idea to stick as closely as possible to this protocol. So every day, what you are allowed to have, you're allowed to have organic eggs. That was my protein source. You can poach them, you can fry them, you can hard boil them, you can scramble them. It does not matter. Eggs will save your life. They're a wonderful protein source. Now for vegans, you're out of luck because you won't even be able to have the fat-free cottage cheese or the eggs. So now for the vegans, raw protein will be your source, will be the only thing right here. And Garden of Life was one of the protein powders, which I found is readily available everywhere. So you can get that at Garden of Life. You can get that at Garden of Life. They do have a website. But most health food stores all over the place, just Google it. You'll find it. And it's got to be the raw protein, the Beyond Organic protein formula, which has under 5 grams of carbs. And then there's MCT oil. I found I can make a mayonnaise. Just go find it. I've got a good link to a mayonnaise, a homemade do-it-yourself mayonnaise recipe. And instead of using olive oil or any other type of oils, you will use the MCT oil. And this will make things a lot more palatable. I actually found that I hard-boiled eggs, used a little bit of the mayo. It makes them easier to swallow. You can make deviled eggs with it. So it really was really, really helpful to me. So in the long run, what's going to make the HCG diet protocol successful for most people is the food availability and the food being tasty, because even though you're eating so little, the HCG does help curb 90% of the cravings and 90% of the hunger. After a few days, first few days, you will experience hunger. But all in all, as long as you've got a lot of selections of foods that you find tasty, which took me a while to find. And to be honest with you, like I said, I did like the first 2 weeks of my protocol not eating the protein because I didn't like that. I won't eat the fish. I don't eat meat. And I'm not crazy about cottage cheese. So I'm just like, eating the fruit and eating the veggies and really, really being exhausted and about ready to fall over. Don't want any of you to go through that. So this is Eve. Go to my website, read all of the information, download all of the free HCG tools, and until next time, happy dieting, God's blessings, namaste.